Right, welcome back to the Bowman YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing well. Bit of a different one from me today. You're not going to get too much analysis of the Leicester City game. I'm here to talk to you about Tottenham and why I'm extremely worried about Spurs not preserving their Premier League status this season. That is a genuine fear of mine. I'm not saying Spurs are definitely going to go down, but if you think that we're not in this relegation battle, then I think you're lying to yourself. I've been incredibly positive about Tottenham on this channel. Well, not incredibly positive. When there have been positive things to say, I have been positive about them because it's genuinely how I feel, right? But we are in a deep, dark situation, and I genuinely believe that. And the results will tell you that. And I don't see right now how Spurs are going to turn this around. Yesterday was a grim day for the football club. A grim, grim day. Banners held up in the South Stand, Levy out chants, the loudest I've ever heard them in the ground, and I think we have to talk about that. We absolutely have to talk about that. That is more important than the game itself. The game itself, Tottenham were poor and deserved to lose, as has been the case for a lot of the last few months, right? But this is the most important thing. 24 years, 16 managers, one trophy, time for change. I haven't been... So I started my YouTube channel in June, right? I was filled with optimism, genuine optimism going into the season. And some people didn't like that. A lot of you guys did like it because I think there were a lot of Spurs fans that genuinely felt the same about our hopes for the season. Hopefully a top four finish, build on last year. I was glass half full about the recruitment, despite acknowledging that there were cracks in it. We didn't do enough in certain areas. We gambled on the youth. And I think those young players that have come in are really good talents. Really, really good talents. And I still firmly believe that. But this is the thing holding me back from believing in the long-term vision. And I think I was maybe suckered in a little bit. But that's part of being a glass half full football fan, right? That's the type of person I am as well. I'd rather look on the positive side. That's not to say that I haven't ignored, any reality around Tottenham. And I think it's time to have an honest conversation about that and this. 24 years, 16 managers, one trophy. Time for change. I've been tagged in it. I saw Sava's video, right, on Football Heritage TV, and he made a video earlier on today saying, open message to all you Spurs YouTubers, let's unite together and get Levy and ENIC out. And look, I've never interacted with Sava on a level necessarily. We've never spoken, is what I'm saying. Sava and We Are Tottenham TV, not We Are Tottenham TV, sorry, Tottenham Away. They spoke about me in the summer when I was first doing my YouTube stuff, and there were certain things that they might have called me out on, right? And to be fair to Sava, he apologised. He genuinely apologised. And I respect that, right? But I haven't interacted with him since. He called me out in this video. Not called me out, sorry, that's the wrong word. He's basically trying to get a lot of Spurs, big accounts, whether it's podcasts or YouTubers or whatever, kind of on side and uniting together. And I think it's a really good video, right? It is a really good video because I think it's a very mature one, because I think he acknowledges that there's been friction amongst the fan base online. And I'm not just talking about regular fans, right? And look, I am a content creator. I have a platform on YouTube. I'm fully aware of that, TikTok and all those kind of things, right? And I'm so grateful for that. But above everything, I am just a fan. Just as, I think you can have debates around certain people on social media. And I'm not saying this about Sava, by the way. I'm saying that there are some people on social media that have their platform who I think are content creators first before they are fans. I don't see myself as that. I genuinely don't see Sava as that. I don't really watch Sava's content that much. He comes up sometimes, and I definitely did watch this video because I got tagged in it on Twitter, as did a lot of other Spurs YouTubers, podcasters, content creators, whatever you want to call it, right? And he is trying to get everybody to unite together. And I think the mature thing that Sava's saying in this is that we need to put behind all of the stuff that's happened online between some Spurs fans. That all needs to be forgotten, and it needs to be a clear message. However that gets done, I don't know whether he's trying to organise some sort of protest. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to happen. At the moment, in the very short term, I am using my platform in this video to speak on Daniel Levy and ENIC and what happened yesterday and my thoughts on it. But I am aware of this video because I have been tagged in it, and I appreciate the message 100%, and I think Sava is trying to do the right thing. And I think it's a really mature way to go about it, to kind of put all of the stuff that's happened maybe in this community at times, of which I've been a part of for a very short time, by the way. Like a very, very short time. I started this channel in June. My first video was in June. And there has been, friction that has existed far longer than I've been active on this platform, right? As far as I'm aware. And I've never got caught up in it, right? I know some people have, like I said, Sava and Tottenham Away were talking about me in the summer. And like I said, to be fair, Sava apologised for that. But I've always got on with my own content, right? I've always kind of got on with what I want to make. And I've been accused at times of being Levian, a Levy lover. All of this stuff has got to stop, right, amongst the fan base. And I think I've also been guilty. I will hold my hands up. I've been guilty at times as well of, some people could say that I've maybe pushed the Ange thing at people and my beliefs in him. I think there have probably been a couple of occasions where I have tried to throw it back in the face of some people, not individual people, just like towards the start of the season where I really felt like genuinely thought like something was happening. Even if the results weren't necessarily there, like think about that Newcastle game, the first 3 games of the season going into that international break, I was positive that Spurs were a better team. And the bonkers thing is that I still think we've seen evidence of that at points this season. Clearly we aren't. Clearly we're not right now. Certainly not right now. And there are mitigating circumstances and factors for that. Injuries being a very, very big one. Very big one. You cannot ignore that. Look at our situation right now. 12 injuries. Solanke, Vicario, Udogie, Brennan Johnson, Timo Werner, Spence, Sarr, Van de Ven, Maddison, Romero, Richarlison, Odegaard. Richarlison and Sarr shouldn't have played yesterday. They shouldn't have played. But we didn't really have a choice. And these players are being run into the ground. And people want to blame the manager, and I get that. And blame the training methods, and I understand that, because injuries have kind of followed Ange around. He's never seen anything like this. And actually, to be fair to Ange, what training are Spurs actually doing at the moment? Not a lot, because of the volume of the fixture schedule and the intensity of that. And people might not agree with me, and that's absolutely fine. You're entitled to your opinion. And look, like I said, I will hold my hands up, and at times I might have been too bullish on the Ange thing, because I think there has been times within this fan base online, even when things were good, even after wins, and that's the only time I've ever done it, is after we've won games, because I think there is no need for the kind of negativity that we saw after genuinely good performances. Right, and that's kind of the only time where I've ever done it and gone, that one is for the people that doubted him. And in reality, the people that doubted him are kind of being proved right by this run of form. We're 15th in the league. We've won 7 games. We've picked up less points than we did after our first 10 games last season. That's scary. We've lost 25 games since that Chelsea game last season. And there have been mitigating circumstances in that as well. People might say excuses, but again, injuries have affected us this season and last season. Ange's lack of flexibility and that adaptation in games, and that ability to change and problem solve while Spurs are either in the lead or behind, at the moment is obviously being exacerbated by this situation in terms of the lack of options that he's got to change. But I also think there have been times where he's not shown enough of a desire to do that, even with more options, nearly a full squad, right? But anyway, in my content, I've always done match previews, breakdowns, signing videos, all that kind of stuff. I've never necessarily strayed into any sort of content on YouTube about Levy and the club generally, right? Because it's not necessarily what I wanted to do. I wanted to focus on it, and that wasn't because I thought it would get me. People might be cynical and say that might get you more opportunities and all this kind of stuff. It was genuinely the content that I enjoyed and wanted to make. And I felt positive going into this season, so I thought there was a lot of positive stuff to talk about. And I was watching these games anyway in pre-season. I thought I might as well break them down, build a community on here. And I've got nearly 10,000 subscribers since June, and I'm incredibly grateful for all you guys. But enough is enough, and it is time to make a video about this. I touched on it, to be fair, I've touched on it in the last few videos. And I've made content on TikTok. You can go and follow me on there. I made a video about this yesterday. I made a video after the game. I've made several videos over the course of the last few months, actually, giving my stance on Levy and Enoch and saying that I want them to go. I want them to go. And just because, and one thing I thought Sava said really well in that video, again, to be fair to him, was that it doesn't matter when the penny has dropped. whether it dropped yesterday, whether it dropped 15 years ago, whether it dropped 24 years ago, how many managers ago the penny dropped. It doesn't matter. What happens is what happens next. And how people either, you don't have to use your platform. I'm going to still carry on making the videos that I want to make, right? This channel is not going to turn into a constant bashing of Levy and Ange, but I've also got other platforms, and I've got Twitter and I've got TikTok, where I will, on TikTok sometimes I'm making 3, 4, 5 videos a day across both accounts, right? So you can't just analyze. There is a lot of stuff to talk about, and I've been speaking very frequently. If you don't follow me on TikTok, please do go and do that. I've been speaking very frequently on Levy on those channels, right? And my channel on TikTok is bigger than this. It is bigger than YouTube, but some people might not know that. On TikTok, on my main account, I've got nearly 60,000 followers. On my second TikTok account, I've got nearly 30,000 followers. I made a video yesterday talking about the Levy and Enoch situation, and I'm going to pull it up right now. And it garnered over 210,000 views of me saying it's time for Levy to go. So I've been vocal about it on other platforms. I just haven't been as vocal about it on YouTube because, it's different, right? It's with YouTube. It's like I kind of want it to be this thing just where we talk about the games, but sometimes that can't happen. And I'll be honest, I am really struggling right now to analyse these games properly because of the situation that we found ourselves in and the lack of Spurs' ability to play the way Ange wants to play. And I think a lot of people who have kind of made this kind of content have said the same thing. It's difficult, really difficult to analyse games individually because it's because of the dark situation that we're in. I think you're looking at games from a much more emotional perspective now, and that was always the case anyway, right? But it's also easier to analyse problems, genuine problems on the footballing side of things when things are going wrong, when you've got your best players available all the time, right? That's when it's easier to identify actual cracks with the system and the tactics. You can criticise Ange for not adapting as much, right? Absolutely. One thing, let's talk about the game for a sec, right? It was one of the lowest quality halves of football I have ever seen in that first half. That first half was exactly what these two teams are right now. One that is just knackered and low on confidence, and one that is fighting for relegation. In reality now, it could be both teams that are. But Leicester smelt blood in that second half and came out and started strong and scored 2 goals within 5 minutes. And that is unacceptable for Spurs not to manage that period in the game after going 1-0 up. There's a lack of leaders. There are a lack of characters. To be fair, I think there are big characters in this team that are incredibly struggling physically. I think Dejan Kulusevski is one of them, for sure. I genuinely think he's one sprint away from that hamstring popping off. But we've got no choice at the moment to play him because we need results. And even to manage these players, what comes first? We don't have the luxury of being able to rotate because of this situation. And we need to win games. It's just, honestly, dire straits right now. Pedro Porro, some of his decision-making yesterday absolutely infuriated me. There was one moment where he beat 3 players and decided to shoot near post rather than squaring it across for a tap-in for Mikey Moore at the back post with 25 minutes to go. I thought our build-up was too predictable. These players are really struggling in build-up right now. So sloppy. Sarr, Bentancur, but again, Sarr, I don't think should have been playing that game. I think it's so hard to analyse that game properly. But the facts are staring you in the face in terms of where we are right now. In terms of Ange, I personally, and you can disagree with me all you like, and that's absolutely fine. Obviously, it's come out today that Spurs are not sacking Ange Postecoglou. That's come out again. Alistair Gold understands Spurs is trying to stick with Ange Postecoglou for now amid the absurd injury crisis and are trying to sign at least one player for him in the week ahead. The fact that we are on the 27th of January and Spurs have not signed an outfield player during this situation, whether you are Ange's biggest fan or whether you are his biggest doubter, that is unacceptable and negligence of the highest order. It is, quite frankly, disgusting that Spurs have allowed this situation to get worse and worse and worse. And it is getting worse and worse and worse. And it's genuinely quite upsetting. I'm angry, but yesterday my overall emotions coming out of that game weren't even necessarily anger. I was just quite upset, I'll be honest, because you see stewards trying to take this banner down. I've heard stories of stewards going over to fans in the South Stand who were singing about Levy, asking them to stop. On TikTok, as you can see here, right, I do I'm a season ticket holder. I go to every game. I go to every home game and some away games as well. I make my match reviews in the stadium, as you can see there, right? So this was about 5-10 minutes after full time. I went down and I sit in the upper west. And I went down and I walked past the dispensary bar, which is where we used to drink before the games. I've stopped spending money at Tottenham, right? I might get the occasional bottle, okay? I'm not buying beers. I'm not buying food. I'm not buying nothing anymore. I go down to leave the stadium, and the dispensary bar is full of people drinking and laughing and chatting. And look, you do what you want. If you're a fan, you can absolutely do what you want. I'm not digging out anybody that's done that. I'm not digging out the people that were in one of the longest queues for the club shop that I've ever seen after the game. If you want to go and buy something, that's totally up to you. But this is the situation that Levy has created for himself, where no matter the result, no matter Tottenham's league position, if we are in the Premier League, if we're not, things will change. As long as we're in the Premier League, regardless of whether Tottenham are in the top 4, in the top 10, the top 15, or going for the title, which is what we were promised and what we should be, right? And I'm not saying that from a place of arrogance. I'm saying that from a factual standpoint when you look at the revenue and all of the things that have been put in place at the club for Tottenham to succeed. We are not taking advantage of any of that situation. Our brilliant PSR situation, where we are so far in the black. Is it in the black or in the red? I can't remember. You know what I mean? We are in such an excellent position financially where we can flex our muscle. It comes down to a choice whether you want to or not. And ultimately, we don't want to. That is what the club have done. They've proved that time after time after time. And Ange has been backed with transfer fees. Don't get me wrong. But any club can go out and spend £50 million, £60 million on Brennan Johnson, Dominic Solanke, Richarlison, Tanguy Ndombele, Romero for £50 million. Any club can do that, right? And a poor club, you have to obviously have money to be able to spend it, right? Any team in the Premier League can do that. It's about the wages. And it is about, because you can amortise transfer fees over time. It's about wages, and we are not competitive enough in that field. Anywhere near competitive enough, in that field, right? We make more money. Let's have a look at the stats, right, in terms of Tottenham's revenue, because there's been a lot of figures that have come out in the last few days that have highlighted this problem down to the ground, right? Let's have a look. We've got figures here. The Deloitte Football Money League 2025 was published, showing that Tottenham, as having made the 9th largest revenue figure in the sport in the 2023-24 season with €520 million. Or £520 million, right? That's more than Chelsea. It's less than Arsenal and Liverpool, but it's more than Chelsea. It's more than Newcastle. It's more than Aston Villa. It's more than West Ham. Tottenham's spend in comparison to the wages, or the revenue in comparison to the wages, is crazy. We are making money hand over fist. This was in a season where we weren't even in Europe, and we are making money hand over fist. It's absolutely bonkers, and we are being taken for mugs, and we're being taken for a ride. And that's what's upsetting. That is what's upsetting when you walk out the ground and you see people. And like I said, I'm not going to dig people out for going to the club shop or drinking in the bars. It's your match day experience. You do what you want to. It's the same reason in the past where, there have been organised protests. But I haven't gone to them. I've shown my support on social media. I haven't gone to them because my match day, again, everyone can do their match day how they want. My match day is going to the game and catching up with my mates, with my stepdad, who I don't live with anymore. I live I live away from home. Well, I don't live at home anymore. My match day is my match day, and it's, we go to the pub. We don't go to the ground. We don't go and drink in the ground. I'm not giving like I said, I'm not giving the club any more money this season other than my tickets. I'm not doing it. We go to the pub before the game because I'd much rather give those pubs in the local area more money than the club because they don't need it. They don't need our money. They're making the money through Beyonce and everything else. They're making the money through Conor Benn against Chris Eubank Jr. They're making the money from the Rolling Stones. They're making the money through the financial revenue plan model that Daniel Levy has put in place at the football club, where regardless of the results, you will still get people that are coming to the games because, for example, I've got a friend, right, who's on holiday at the moment, and he couldn't come to the game on Sunday. He's a season ticket holder in the South Stand, and he couldn't come to the game, so he sold his ticket on the exchange. Goes like that. And again, I'm not for 1 second digging out tourist fans. I'm not digging out day tripper fans, because if you want to come to Tottenham, that's great. Good on you. And I hope that you come to support the team. I'm not digging out anybody for that whatsoever. That is their choice, and nobody should be made to feel guilty for coming to Tottenham as a tourist. Individually, they should not be made to feel guilty. Daniel Levy should be made to feel guilty for pricing out regular match-going fans that have been supporting this club their whole lives and dedicated their life to this football club. He should be made to feel guilty for that. But he, with the revenue model that he has put in place and how attractive he has made us for tourists, the bars are still going to be full. The club shop is going to be turning money over hand over fist, whether we lose games or whether we win them. And again, I can't make it clearer that I'm not digging out individual people that want to come to Tottenham Hotspur. That would be a great thing if we were winning games. It just shows you that it's like people like us. People want to come, right? People want to come because we're a good team, but we're not. We're not. We're a marketable company. That's why our season tickets say client reference number. We're not a fan. We're not a fan to Daniel Levy. We're not. It's an absolute disgrace when you look at the revenue in comparison to the wages. And the wages are what make you competitive. The transfer fees are a part of that, absolutely. You cannot ignore that. And you cannot ignore that Ange's been given money to spend. But he's not been given money to spend in January. And that is, quite frankly, disgraceful. Tottenham want to sign Tyler Dibbling and Angel Gomez this summer. What are we doing now? Tyler Dibbling is a player, by the way, that I really like, and I really hope Tottenham sign. We need to add more proven quality and experience on top of that, and strong characters and strong leaders. Angel Gomez is, again, a very talented footballer, don't get me wrong. Is he suited for the Premier League? Is he suited for a high-intensity system with his physical makeup and stature? I think he's a very good footballer, very good technical footballer, and I like the fact that he's been involved in the England setup, and I'd be interested to see whether that continues under Tuchel. We need players now. What have we been doing for the last 27 days? What we've been doing is continually, publicly sticking up with the manager and backing the manager, but there's no hardcore evidence to suggest that we actually have been doing that. Like I said, Tyler Dibbling is a super talented player. I'm glad that we're in talks with him. I'm glad that we're trying to get him to come to Tottenham, because I think the prospect of Tyler Dibbling and Mikey Moore as our wingers in 5 years' time, I think is super exciting. I think Tyler Dibbling, again, a little bit like Wilson Odobert. I think Dibbling is maybe better talent, but again, a little bit like Odobert. The reason why I was actually positive about that signing, and still am, and still think that we missed that kind of profile, is partly because of the profile in which Ange needs his wingers to be, and we are lacking that. We are lacking any creativity or dynamism from out wide. Someone who can take on their man with pace but can also beat players with skill and cross and shoot. We don't have that. We do not have that. But also Odobert had Premier League experience for Burnley. Very young player, but Tyler Dibbling, in a relegation battle team, has proved himself to be a top talent. And I really hope Spurs do go through with this deal in some way, shape or form. I would prefer it to be in the summer, because one, he's injured at the moment anyway. If we go to the premierinjuries.com, he's going to be out for another 3 weeks, potentially. But we need to be doing more now. And I'm just really worried that we're not going to sign anybody. And like I said, regardless of whether you are Ange's biggest sympathiser or whether you're his biggest doubter, everybody has to come together and acknowledge that that is not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough whatsoever. This worries me. Again, terrible source, former... I don't know why I'm kind of giving that the time of day, to be honest, but I wouldn't... Edin Terzic is the Tottenham manager. Like I said, I think right now, genuinely, Ange is part of the problem and arguably not the solution. But he's nowhere near our biggest issue right now. And the people who are above him, who are the biggest issue at this club in terms of stopping it from developing and moving forward, are not giving him the tools that he needs. We're not having clear communication on what the strategy is for this January. We know what the overall strategy is, and I've got nothing wrong. I have got nothing wrong with buying top young talent and trying to develop it, because I think we've got some really exciting players at the football club. Archie Gray, look at how well he's done during this period. Lucas Bergvall, again, same said about him. Mikey Moore, I think, is a real talent. I've said that so many times, and I genuinely believe that. Everything that I've ever said about those players, in terms of thinking that Archie Gray could be captain material for this football club, Bergvall could go on to be a genuine superstar. Mikey Moore the same. I genuinely do believe that. It's not just being positive for the sake of being positive and saying we've got these brilliant young talents. Watch them. I genuinely do believe it. I genuinely do believe it. What I can't get behind is the fact that the age profile of the squad, I think, is a bit of a mess. That needs to be sorted. It needs to be balanced with 23, 24, 25-year-olds who, by the time Gray, Bergvall and Moore are starting to... are 21, 22, these other players have developed into stronger characters and they are in their prime. Like Solanke is now, for example, or will be over the next year. And it's gutting that we've got him out injured at the moment because of how important he is. I just think it's I despair. Honestly despair. Yesterday, at what is going on at this football club, and it needs to change. It's time for change. And look, I don't know what happens next. I will, like I said, it might not be on YouTube all of the time because this is an outlier for me in terms of this individual video. But on TikTok and on Twitter, I've been vocal for months now about Levy and ENIC. It wasn't necessarily the way that I wanted to go with my content, not because I wanted to ignore it, not because I wanted to get better opportunities off the back of it. I just wanted to focus largely on the football. And I'm a positive guy, and I genuinely saw positives in this season, and I genuinely had hope. I think we've had enough results to show that that is a genuine, valid feeling, right? Enough performances. There have been way too many that have just compounded this misery, and we are in real trouble. Real trouble. Like I said, I'm Angie, and I'm hanging by a thread on that. But he has to do better. He has to find more solutions in games to help us win and get over the line. Because we are losing games on XG every week. We are losing games every week. People say that XG doesn't matter, but we are not creating as good chances as our opposition. That is what our XG for and against in every single game that we are losing is telling you. And it's a problem. How long can it go on for? I don't know. I'm glad that they are sticking by him for now during this difficult period, but he needs help. And we need change. We are being taken for mugs as a fan base with the amount of money that we are paying. Success should not be guaranteed in football. Football fans should not be arrogant enough to demand success from their football club. It doesn't work like that. There are 19 other teams in this league that could say that we deserve to win it. Enough's enough now. For the money that we pay, for the promises that we've had, enough is enough. And like I said, well done to Savin for making that video. I don't know what happens next. Like I said, from my point of view, I'm gonna continue to be vocal about it. Not necessarily all the time on my YouTube channel. If the conversations need to be had, they will be had, and it needs to be had now. I'll go on making content about players and about the games themselves and trying to break them down for you and speak about them. Like I said, I am finding that hard at the moment, but you can find me on TikTok. The videos on there are a lot more conversational. They are giving thoughts off the dome. They are, talking about issues that happen like that. I can't always just jump on YouTube and talk about something that happens right then. That is what TikTok is for. So go and follow me on there. And that is where I've been far more vocal about the demand for change and the need for change on that platform and on my Twitter rather than on YouTube. And I hope you guys can understand that, because of what I've tried to do with this channel. It's not a disingenuous thing whatsoever not to talk about Levy and ENIC on here. It's not for any... there is no motivational reason behind it other than the fact that I just want my YouTube channel to be talking about the on the pitch for the most part, right? And the signings that we might make, and the games themselves, previews and reviews. So yeah, enough is enough. It's time for change. We need to all come together, whether we've disagreed in the past, whether we have agreed in the past. And if you still want Levy and Enoch to stay, I would say fair enough. I don't agree, but you're entitled to your opinion, 100%. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand. A bit of a brain dump for the last half an hour. Thank you for sitting with me. I do have some exciting news. That the first episode of mine and Seb's new podcast, FC Bottle Job, is out now. We discussed all of the weekend's action. We had a chat about Spurs in there, actually. Obviously, it is not a Spurs podcast. I don't know how much more clear I can be on that. It is not a Spurs podcast. Obviously, me and Seb got a little bit of heat from the name on social media last week. That situation has been resolved. It's been dealt with. It's been, it's water under the bridge, all that kind of stuff. And I understand, if you don't like it, that's absolutely fine. But it is literally not a Tottenham podcast. We're going to talk about Tottenham, obviously, on there because Tottenham are in the Premier League, and it's a Premier League show. It's a European football show, right? And we are both Spurs fans, so obviously that comes into it. We will be getting other guests on as well, by the way, who aren't Spurs fans, to balance that out a little bit more, and so they can give their perspectives on their clubs and other clubs as well. But where so much of my content on TikTok is Spurs driven, and I do get to talk about other teams as well, of course. This is just a great outlet to be able to do that with someone that I really respect as a content creator, and someone that I call a friend, and someone that I think is really good. So go and subscribe to Seb on YouTube as well. Go and subscribe to the podcast. So that is out now. And we give some thoughts on the ownership even more in there. So I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. I appreciate you guys for listening and subscribing and watching for all these months. Levy out, Enoch out. It's time for change.